When mixing spoken word, there's nowhere to hide. With no instruments or other tracks covering it up, the vocal needs to be loud and clear and free of feedback. I've mixed a lot of spoken word over the last 5 years or so, and so I wanted to share with you the pyramid strategy that I developed for mixing spoken word. It's 3 things that you can work on to improve any gig with someone speaking on stage. And just like a pyramid, we'll build from the foundations up with critical decisions like speaker and microphone placement all the way up to the ornamentation, which is processing on the mixer. Since this is going to include a lot of information about EQ, you should grab my free guide, 3 Steps to Perfect EQ. I'll leave the link down in the description. Without further ado, let's dive in. Stage number 1, which is the foundation of our pyramid, is good speaker and microphone placement. This is the most important thing in getting a clear vocal to the audience. Number 1, you need to have speakers which cover the whole audience area. You need to know the coverage characteristics of your speaker. You might think I just point a speaker at the audience and voila, there is sound there, but it's not quite how speakers work. They have an angle of dispersion, right? Which is the area in front of the speaker which is evenly covered by sound within the manufacturer's specifications. Basically, where the speaker sounds good, and outside of that area, speaker does not sound good. You can find this information by Googling the model number of the speaker that you have, and you should be creating a really rough plan. You can just use a pen and paper, quickly sketch out roughly what your venue looks like, and you should be able to draw a box where it is in your venue, and then draw a cone coming out from that box to show the area which is covered by that speaker. If you have 2 speakers beside the stage and you draw cones out and you find out there's a big hole right in the middle, then you have a problem. You need to cover that area with another speaker. Similarly, you need to think about the volume of your speakers and the length of your venue. That is how far that they are going to throw the sound. Because if you have a really long venue, and again, just 2 speakers at the front of the stage, you're going to find that the people in the front are going to get blasted into oblivion by super high sound levels, and the people at the back are going to be like, won't be able to hear what's being said on the stage. So there are 2 ways to consider combating this. One is to raise your speakers up. If you get the speakers off of the ground and into the air, they're playing down at the audience, and you can better make use of their full dispersion. You can essentially even out the distance between the front row and the back row from the speaker, because the speaker is now up here, and that way you can find a more optimal volume to play that speaker at for the venue. The second strategy you could use to combat this problem would be installing delay speakers. That is, speakers some way down the hall which serve to pick up where the main PA left off. That way you can drive your main PA at a slightly lower volume and know that these delay speakers, say 10 meters down the hall, are going to pick up that sound and give it an extra boost to reach the end of the hall. If you want to take this really seriously, I would suggest that you download software like Ease, which is a free software that you can get to simulate speaker coverage patterns as well as how far and how loud the speakers are playing. It helps you visualize just how loud it is at the front and how quiet it is at the back and how much of the venue the speakers are covering. It takes a little bit of learning, but there's some great tutorials for free on YouTube. Now, a main reason why you need to have good speaker placement is to get gain before feedback. And by that, I just mean you need to be able to turn your microphone up without it feeding back. And the main thing that governs when a microphone feeds back is how close it is to the main PA system or the speakers that that microphone is coming out of. So you want to place your speakers in front of the stage, and you want your microphones to be on the stage behind those speakers. If you're using a headset microphone, then you want to make sure that that microphone is sitting just at the corner of the smile of the person that's wearing it. So you want to get it positioned just about here so that when they smile, it's sitting just there where their mouth opens to when they smile. Because when they open their mouth wide for certain vowel sounds, that microphone is going to end up being in front of that mouth a little bit. And so if it's too far forward, you're going to get popping and hissing noises and lots of mouth noise. No one wants to hear it. And if you position that microphone too far back, maybe you think, oh, I'll just play it safe, then you're going to have a muffled, dull sound, and you won't get the volume that you need to, again, project that voice over the venue. If you're using a handheld microphone, then you want to get that talent to rest that microphone just underneath their chin. You want to be just touching here so that it is close enough to the mouth that you get good volume, but far enough away that it's not going to sound like they're eating the thing. If they hold the microphone out here, disaster. If they hold it down here, disaster. Some people think that the microphone is a magic stick and if they hold it, they will be heard. You need to make sure that they know there should be contact between that microphone and their chin. Never let it leave their chin. Now we move on to stage 2, and that is the middle layer of our pyramids. We've built our foundation, and now we're getting some real substance to our technique, and that is with EQ. EQ is something that we are going to use to sculpt the sound, both of the speakers in the PA system and also the talent speaking on the stage into a microphone. The speaker system needs to be well balanced. That means that you need to play sound through that speaker system, walk around the venue and listen to it. You need to make decisions about the quality of the sound coming out of that speaker and use EQ on the system to balance it. If it sounds too harsh, you need to bring the treble down a little. If there is no richness, fullness or impact in the system, you need to increase the bass frequencies somehow. If you're really experienced with sound, you can do this with your ears, no problem. It feels intuitive. But if you're just getting started, then it can be really, really difficult to do this. So I would suggest investing some time in learning how to measure a speaker system. It doesn't cost a lot of time or money, and you can find a lot of tutorials on the internet. I'll link to one. And that way you can get data about how your speaker system sounds in your room. Using that data, you can balance out the frequency spectrum so that you know you have an accurate reproduction of the sound that goes into the system. Next up, of course, is channel EQ, the EQ that we apply to the microphone to the person speaking. Now, everyone is different. Every person's vocal cords are a different length because we're all different shapes and sizes. And the length of our vocal cords affects the fundamental frequency that they vibrate at. So, a taller person will have a deeper voice, and that affects where we need to place our EQ cuts. But there are certain patterns that emerge over time. If you mix enough voices, you'll know basically how to do this in 5 minutes. I recommend for just about everyone high passing that stuff up to about 100 Hertz, because down there is rumble, noise, clothing shuffling. You don't want to hear it. You can pretty much just go right in at 100 Hertz. Depending on the filter on your mixer, you might even go higher. Beyond that, I usually go for a cut, a kind of wide cut, somewhere in their fundamental frequency, which can be anywhere from 150 Hertz to 300 Hertz in that general region. And that does two things. That can reduce the sort of low rumble that you get from the vocals that makes it sound muffled and not clear. It can also fight against proximity effect in the microphone. So when we hold a directional microphone very close to a sound source, we get a build-up of low frequencies. This cut can help reduce that effect. After that, I'm usually looking at the low mids, somewhere in 500-ish. Again, depends on the speaker. I find that there's a bit of a honkiness in there, a bit of a sort of nasal almost quality that doesn't often sound good, but again, very, very specific to each speaker. Additionally, if we're using something like an SM58 microphone, they're characteristically quite harsh around the 2 kHz region. So I'll look for a bit of a wide cut, wide, shallow cut around 2 kHz to reduce harshness. The caveat with all of these tips is that it varies based on person and the microphone. 2 different people using 2 different microphones will require entirely different EQ techniques, but hopefully this is somewhere to start. Finally, you might have to perform some EQ cuts to try and reduce feedback in the system to allow you to get a little more gain out of it. But hopefully, if you deployed everything properly in stage 1, then you won't need to do that. We've arrived at stage 3, the apex of our pyramid. This is the icing on the cake that will make your life easier and will make everyone just enjoy the event a little bit more. The first one you want to think about is an auto mixer, right? Most digital mixers these days have some sort of auto mixer built in. And it's just a method of automatically adjusting the gain on each channel based on who is speaking. That way, if you have multiple microphones open on stage, especially headset microphones or lapel microphones, which take in a lot of sound, this can reduce the feedback by basically turning everyone off who is not speaking. It's kind of like using a gate, but far more intelligent because it's designed entirely for speech. The second thing you want to be looking at is a de-esser. De-essers really take that harshness, that sibilance out of letters like S. I guarantee you, if you don't notice the S's now, you will notice them once you put the de-esser on and they're gone, so I recommend it. Third up is a compressor. A compressor really helps to even out the vocal performance, right? Sometimes people get excited and they speak a lot louder than they did before, and that variation can be, I don't know, shocking to people. Irritating. Let's go with irritating. The compressor anyways reduces the volume difference between the quiet and the loud parts. But be very, very careful if you're anywhere near feedback. Because of that reduction, you increase the likelihood of feedback. So only use compression if you're very confident about how far you can push that vocal microphone. The combination of these 3 things is what takes your spoken word from okay to amazing. If you need to know how to measure and tune a sound system, I will leave a video here for that. If this was useful, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time, thanks for watching. Goodbye.